So what we're looking at today is that bigger question of, do the ends justify the means? And we're talking about it in a broad sense. This is a narrow case that we can use to consider that question, but it's a much broader question than just the Civil War. So, do the ends, the end being 4 million slaves freed, do they make right or defend the idea or declare innocent those who were involved in the 620,000 deaths, the suspension of the Constitution? And then the last question to consider there, could slavery have been ended in any other way? Now remember, all of this relates back to our big question. I want to see, before we break up into groups, I would like to see you guys just give me a visual picture here. So aside from where I assign you as a group, everybody stand up. Up, up, up. Okay. So if you believe that the ends justified the means, this is just an opening question. We're going to do this again at the end. If you believe that the ends justify the means, I want you to go to this side of the
for the positive. So we think that the ends do justify the means. So
would have done the South would have rebelled anyway.
Yeah, so there's literally no other way. Because, like, if they had tried to stop slavery, secede, any option of getting rid of slavery would
The casualties were like once, but then like the end of slavery was permanent. So like, there's no more slaves.
Death is permanent.
Yeah, but there's
but population war was the only way that slavery could have been ended.
And so the long-lasting
yeah, but it's
ends
not. Somebody has to
outweigh
prove it wrong.
Yes, it is.
short-term.
Really?
Yeah, conversation. Okay, we're going to use this textbook.
That's mine. Don't break it.
No, just open it and see what it says.
Oh, you're right there. Good job.
Guys, the ends did not justify the means because he went around the Constitution and he could have found another way to do it rather than killing everybody. Not everybody, but there was a lot of people that died and the ends did not.
Search of seizure.
Yeah,
He went beyond his constitutional powers as president.
We need to find something that like he could do instead of that, because we're just saying like all he did wrong.
Okay, it's better than
Even when it wasn't constitutional.
It's not constitutional because he can't hold them without
So let's make a
having a
list.
reason, but he wanted to hold them, so he did that.
So let's make a list of what he did that went beyond suspended habeas corpus, which means he kept prisoners without charging them of a crime.
Say suspended.
So, can you guys make a case for me that yes, the ends did justify the means?
As Blair said, so what? Who cares about how many slaves were freed or how many casualties there were? Well, we found out that the population of blacks today is 10 times the amount of black slaves that were originally freed.
So we're not talking about it just affecting those people, but generations ahead of them.
And something that's bad is since he bended the rules, so what? All these people died and stuff. But since his example of bending the rules says that anybody in this generation today can bend the rules also. If he is a really good leader and we should all follow him, why can't we bend the rules?
There, and so like I think it kind of goes against the Bible anyway, just because, and they're still breaking the law about equal protection, and so either way, like whether he bent the rules or he let slavery go, like he'd still be like allowing us to break the rules too.
But I have one more question for us. Is anyone ever unforgivable? Already, we've got some strong opinions here. Nick?
I was thinking, so if we are a reflection of what God made us, then if God can forgive anyone, then that means we can forgive him.
Spencer?
I would think there are some people who are unforgivable, like the people during 9/11, and they wouldn't forgive. I wouldn't forgive them if I was in the Twin Towers and I died during that. I would never forgive them because, like, if I went to go to your parents' workday, I'm too young to die. I wouldn't want to forgive them for what they've done. And there are some people in your lives that you can't forgive. So everybody is forgivable, like Nick said. We are a reflection, of God, and if He can forgive everybody, we can forgive anybody. But sometimes us humans don't want to forgive because of something so horrible that somebody else has done to us, but we still can forgive.
Can you guys remember any other parts of the Bible that talk about forgiveness? I'm going to give more think time. Thomas, what are your thoughts?
When He died on the cross and He forgave our sins.
For sure. And you know what? When Jesus died on the cross, He had every mistake I've ever done, every mistake you've ever done. And if you think about that for every single person in the world who's ever lived,
that's more than 7 billion.
It's a ton. So imagine what Jesus was carrying on His shoulders. He had everyone's sin, and He had the power to forgive it. Good connection, Thomas.
In this chapter and in other chapters throughout our book is what version do we want? Like in this chapter, what are the versions that we're looking at or comparing? But when you hear that question, because you hear it often in here, what version do you want? What does that bring up in your mind? Yeah.
Fraction. That's what I think when you say what version. I think fraction.
Like what do you mean about fraction? What about fraction makes you think version of something?
I don't know. It's just that's what I think when I hear.
Okay. Well, others might be able to expand.
So like you have a number and then you have like the fraction version and the decimal version and the percentage version.
Okay, so equivalent versions.
I think if you want like simplified or not, or if you want simplified or what form you want it in.
Okay, great, yeah. Too often in math, the math book says, hey, let's simplify it every single time. But in real life, the best answer, the best version is not always the one that is the smallest. What else do you think of when you think of what version?
When I'm deciding what version, I think, what do I need this for? Like, if I need it as a percent, I'm do I need, so I might not need the fraction simplified, I might need it as over 100, so I can figure out the percent.
Okay, yeah, great. Isaiah?
When I think of a different version, I think of picking a way that makes it easier to solve or easier to figure out.
Okay. Just even think about this. When we've been doing the percent of quantity, we have different versions of how we solve it. Some of you want to use we call the translation version, where you just read and write and then solve. Now, others of you are finding, hey, I could set this up as a proportion, and I could solve it this way. Still, other ways are, hey, a different version of solving the same problem is finding 1% and then multiplying it that many times, however many you need. So which version you want shows up all the time, and we're constantly thinking, right?
The questions that they ask really make you think about the subjects that you're trying to learn about.
So when Mrs. Blair asks a question like, what is a just war? I believe my opinions, and I want to express that a just war is this or a just war is that, and then this is bad or not morally right. So asking big questions helps me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, stay engaged in conversations and remember what we're being taught.
She says the question in a very 4th grade way, so it's not too confusing and not too easy. So it's just just right for this, and it's just I just like the questions that she asks, so it makes me think, and not just oh, I have the answer right before. She has thinking time for us.
So it's not just reading from the book, because when you read from the book, you kind of sometimes you get lost and you start to daydream, and you just don't even remember anything you just read, and you read for 5 minutes. But when you have a class discussion, you talk about it, you're thinking about it, you're engaged, and you're thinking about what you're going to say next. And in Mr. Smith's classroom, we used does bigger always mean better, and it helped me to see the bigger picture, and that math is used also in like daily life, and it's not just in a math class. You can use it when you leave school.
Essential questions will help you, because if you're reading a book in just your 4th grade or 5th grade class, how would you know? Are you just reading the book because you want to read the book, or are you just reading, or what is the lesson? That's the whole point about essential questions.